Hi guys, welcome back. The Ghost here. It's been quite a while since my last video. I had a lot of stuff going on, and I've been doing. I kind of got into another hobby of leather work, and so I kind of focused on that for a little bit. But I'm trying to get in, now that I've kind of done that. I've got a few projects I've got going with that for some people, but I'm trying to figure out how I can balance both hobbies and the family and life and everything else. You guys know how hard that can be sometimes, but anyway, since we're talking about leather, I'll just show this real quick. This is a holster that I made for my 1911. Just finished it last week, and it's not fully done yet. I still have to add a thumb brake stiffener. I'll pull this snap off and add one of those, but anyway, that is the holster that I just finished. Pretty happy with it. So that's the other hobby that I've been doing. By the way, if you're interested, leather work is really, really fun, but it can, like lock sport, can get kind of expensive depending on how deep you want to go with it. So anyway, put that aside. Now, we are talking locks. Kind of been working on disc detainers. You guys know these. This is, sorry for the light blinding. This is my Sparrows disc detainer pick. This is the first one that I got. I placed an order with the very first production run that Sparrows did with this. I think just about anybody that watches my channel knows the history on these, so I'm not going to go into all that. If you're interested in the history, Lockpicking Lawyer and Bosnian Bill they designed this, and then after they built their prototype, they worked with Sparrows, and Sparrows put it into production. And if you're interested in any deeper history or watching how it was made, Lockpicking Lawyer and Bosnian Bill both have videos on it on their channel. So go check them out if you don't know about these and want to. So anyway, this is the first one, first production run, and I was lucky enough to be able to order one before they sold out in 10 minutes. So I got it, and I was super excited. One of the first things I did was pulled out the video camera and set up and started making a video, pulled it out, talked about it, went over it. And then I went to actually put it into use, and I was extremely disappointed. I have a feeling that most of you who got the first production run of these probably experienced the exact same thing I did. They come with two picking tips. I'm not going to pull this out. I'll get to this in just a second. They come with two picking tips, and I pulled it out. I, kind of checked it all out. And then I busted out the one of the few only disc detainer locks that I actually had around, and I had two of these U-shaped bicycle locks, and they're kryptonites. They're disc detainers, and I started feeling around and going to town on that. And one of the things that was mentioned about these is the pick tips, and how, because of how they're put together, you want to kind of be careful and, not super heavy tension. And so I thought I was being careful, and broke the tip off in the first 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe it was me, too heavy a tension. So I swapped out the tips, for the second one that it comes with, and I started picking again, and I went to feather light tension, like the lightest possible tension that you could ever have. And within seconds, it spun the tip right off. And I was so upset, and I was so super disappointed. And I don't know, I think it was a combination of both being upset that it's a brand new product that I just got, and I hadn't used it for more than 10 minutes, and I was completely out of commission at that point. And I think the other part of it was, I was also very disappointed because I was super excited to start learning detainer locks and picking them. And now I couldn't do that either. So, both of those kind of really, really upset me with this whole thing. And I took some pictures of the second one because the way it showed it's like it was just pressed on. And I have it actually in here. I tried to fix it. Because it came out as one. Oh, it's time to demagnetize my tweezer or my little pliers here. So it came off clean, like it literally just twisted off. I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see any of this, but and so I pressed it back on. And that's when I started looking at it, and it was like, it seems like it was really just pressed on. It wasn't even really secured on. And so I pressed it all back on. Well, I took and I ground the shaft of the that goes into the pick, and I ground it to a V-point, and I pressed the tip back on there, and I tried to solder it back on. And got it all as good as I could. And I used it for a couple minutes, and then it spun off. And I realized that was not going to work. So I started looking at, because I was waiting. So I was waiting until Sparrows was ready with their second run. And at the same time, I had sat down and I typed out an email to Sparrows explaining my experience with this and what happened. And I meant to attach pictures to the email, so I didn't send it right away. And then I kind of, life went on, I forgot about it a little bit, and then I ultimately ended up not sending the email, and I wish I had. But either way, it's neither here nor there. So this went to the back burner. And I was watching the Sparrows website for the second run to come out. And I thought that maybe when they did that, and if anybody who is in contact with anybody at Sparrows sees this, bring this up. I'm going to potentially send an email on it. But I thought that maybe they would, because they got to know people are going to break these, regardless of how they're built. You're going to break them at some point. I thought that maybe they would sell just the pick tips. You know, you buy a pack of them for whatever it would cost. I don't know. So I was watching for that also. And then I just happened to see when they released for the second run. And without hesitation, I jumped on, I grabbed another one, and because I didn't know how fast they were going to sell out. And so I bought another one, and there was a couple other things I wanted to pick up from Sparrows at the time too. So I had a few things already in my cart on the website that I decided I was going to go ahead and get at the same time. And but I didn't see any spare pick tips, so I'm like, well, it seems like that was something that they would think about doing, but maybe they haven't thought of it yet or haven't got to that point. Either way. So I managed to get a second one. I did not get a coin. Anybody who's been paying attention from Sparrows, they've been throwing in these like commemorative challenge coin things with some of the orders. And I started seeing on Facebook, a ton of people were getting them. Saw it on YouTube. A bunch of people were getting them, and I was hoping that I was going to get one, and I didn't. Kind of bummed about that, wishing I had, but either way. So anyway, I picked up the second one. I got it, I don't know, a week after I ordered it or something like that. Anybody who has one of these, by the way, one of the things that you might think about doing that I did is I notched out the foam on the side here because I could not get these out for the life of me without getting another tool or a screwdriver or something to pop them out. So I notched that out so that I can actually get my finger in there and get it out. But anyway, so got to looking. There's a couple of differences between the second run and the first run. Nothing major. The knurling on the handles on the first run seemed to be a little deeper, a little sharper. And then they went to this one's a little more dull and a little more see if I can get some focus out of the camera. I don't know if you can see that or not. You see this one's just a little more detailed, a little more, it's like deeper and sharper grip versus these. Not that it affects really anything. I kind of like the look of the first one better. But anyway, so at the same time that I ordered this, I also got on Amazon and I ordered, because one of the things I saw people were doing that were having this problem that I had, oh, excuse me, was they were ordering, I think they're a 1/16 of an inch. I'm not sure what the millimeter is on it. Ejector pins, or extraction pins, whatever you want to call them. So I ordered a set. It was a set of 5. I really don't remember what I paid for them. I don't think it was too much. But I ordered a set of those, and I thought, if worse comes to worse, I can make my own. And I know they're going to be a hell of a lot tougher than what I was getting. So I went ahead and picked up a set of these. Now, these I've already partially ground down. And I'll just show you one of them. That very thin tip right here is actually, when you get them, it's about 1/4 of an inch. Focus. It's about 1/4 of an inch thick. And I had taken them to work and I used the belt sander and I ground them all down. So they were about as thin as one of these pick tips. And I've got 4 left here. This one, the one that's in here, and this is where I said I'll get to it later. The one that I have in here right now is one that I actually made myself. I ground that down. Now, if you look at that I made versus one of the factory from Sparrows, mine is just a hair longer, and I left it that way on purpose because I figure I can always file it down later. It's just a hair thicker. And for what I've been doing, what I've been practicing on, seems to work really well to have that little extra thickness and that little extra length on it. Said every guy in the world. Sorry, bad joke. Anyway, so I've opened up, I picked this lock right here. I've picked it 3 times now. And I did it with the pick tip that I made. I could not do it with the factory Sparrows tip. And it's probably just me and my feel of the tool, but it seems like that little extra length and that a little bit of extra thickness really seemed to help me. So I've had pretty good luck so far with the tip that I made. The other thing that I've done is, so like I said, I ground the rest of those down so they're ready to go. So all I got to do is file these down and I can reconfigure these to make you know, any type of shape that I may need. One of the other things that I want to get to at some point is, some of you have seen these before. This is the Abloy. This one's the 350 high security enforcer padlock. So this one is has the crescent shape, but it's not just the half, it's the rounded crescent shape. And these do not fit in there, obviously. So one of the things that I was looking at doing with making my own tips was, and I've got this one started, this one's going to be a little bit, because this, anybody who's ever been able to actually pick one of these or even opened one up just to look at them, this has false gates. This has anti-pick discs in it. And when I get to the point where I'm picking this, I'll do it on camera. I'll tear it all down. And I'll show you guys what's inside of there. But so that's where I'm going with this. But so this one you can see is right now it's a half circle. And what I'll do is I'm going to grind this down enough that I can get it to fit in there, and still be centered, and work on trying to pick that Abloy when I get to that point. The other thing that I did was ordered up a few of the cheap Chinese disc detainer locks off of Amazon. And I did that just instead of spending a bunch of money on good ones, because I'm just starting out, I figured these would be good training tools. I may have been wrong, because they're the cheap Chinese version, the knockoff, and the tolerances in these suck so bad that I have yet to get these open. And I bought a couple of different ones. I still have one here that's still in the package. I haven't even opened this one yet. I was hoping to get through those, and then I wanted to do out of the package open, but that's a little ways off still, because I can't even get those other ones open yet. But I have been able to open this kryptonite. Now that we've talked about the tools, let's get to doing some picking. Let me set some stuff aside here, now that I got stuff spread out all over the place. So here's what we've got, guys. This is, like I said, it's kryptonite disc detainer. And this one is only locking on one side. But hopefully we can get this open on camera. Now, the other thing that I've done is, for anybody who doesn't maybe know what the inside of these looks like, but you're curious, I had two of these. These were old locks that me and my wife had on our bikes years ago. And so I decided I was going to dissect one. I wanted the lock out of it. So I did that. And it was not an easy feat, by the way. So here's the thing. I don't know about the shackle, but the body, the housing for the lock itself is extremely hardened. Extremely hardened. I went through several cutoff wheels on my Dremel trying to cut out the pins that hold this in. So inside this is this piece, and it sits just like that. And then the lock is retained in there with two pins that hold the whole lock housing in. And I knew I needed to get those pins out to get the lock out. And so I started with brute force attacks first. This is the plastic housing that holds the locking pawl. This is the part that you see that slides in to lock on the shackle. And then on the back side of this is the actuator that actually rotates that. So I knew I had to get those pins out, and I started brute force first. And you can see that's why this is all busted up on the end. And it didn't work. It wasn't going to happen. So then I started cutting. I pulled out the Dremel, pulled out my cutoff wheels. I even went and bought special metal cutting wheels. And I tried and I went through several discs trying to cut these out, and I could not get through this. And so at that point I said, okay, because of where I work, I actually have access to a full metal shop with mill and a lathe and all that fun stuff. And so I took it to work and I milled down the opposite side of those pins, because I knew I couldn't, if I milled down far enough without getting into the lock body, because I also wanted, I'm going to try and figure out a way to turn this into a training lock or a cutaway so that you can use it as a training lock, so you can kind of see what you're doing to get a feel for how those discs are moving when you're manipulating them. So I milled it down and I brought it home and I pulled out the punches and the hammers and I knocked those pins out of there, and the lock body popped right out. And I'm like, man, if I'd have only done that first. But anyway, so this is the lock that's housed inside of here. This is it's keyed differently, but it's the same type of lock, same setup. So it's got an actuator on the back, and pop that off. Now there's also a retention clip that goes inside. Let me see if I can find. Let me zoom in a little bit so maybe you guys can see what's going on. Okay, so sits inside of here and compresses out. There's a retention clip in there, and in the process of prying it out, and I was trying to be very, very careful because I knew it was going to go shooting if I wasn't. In the process of prying it out, it went flying. And it landed somewhere around here, and I cannot find it. So at some point, I hope I will, because I'm going to need to put this back together. But, so there's the retention clip, and then there is a turn limiter. This one right here. That limits the core rotation. So it will only turn that. I can't hold on to anything. It will only turn about a third of a turn. That's what prevents it from spinning all the way around when it's all assembled. And then the rest of this, oh, I probably shouldn't have picked something that was magnetic to pop that out. That was not smart. The rest of this comes out. Maybe. All of my tools hang on a magnetic board, and they have all gotten to be too magnetic. Oh, and now I'm dropping stuff. Oh, talk about blowing a gut. Okay, it's all right. It's not that big a deal. So, well, now it is because I'm throwing them on the floor. Anyway, oh God, I don't even know if you guys saw any of that. Sorry, let me back up a little. There we go. Okay, so these are the discs that are inside here, minus the two I just dropped on the floor. And there's the discs and the spacer rings. And these look like this. All right. And then there's the housing that they all sit in. So, the way that these operate is, oh, I know what dropped. That was the sidebar. That's all right. It's metal. I can run the magnet across there and find it. Okay, so anyway, these sit in here, and there's a little notch on them that keeps them from turning too far. And then once they turn to the point where they hit the side of this housing, it rotates the entire housing, and that's what turns the actuator. And these turn, obviously, with the turn of the key, and they're all cut to different angles. So what happens is, and I put this one in backwards, but the notch or the gate in these discs, hold on, I can't pick them up. The gate rotates to the point where it allows the sidebar to drop in, and then the whole cylinder rotates. So that's how they operate. That's how they work. And that's what's inside of here. And there's, I think 6. 2, 3, 4. I think I dropped 2, 5, 6. So there's 6 discs inside of here. And normally I would not mess all the order of those up, but I've already dropped a couple and I'm going to have to restack them anyway. So we deal with it. So that's what the inside of this lock looks like. That's what you're doing, is you're manipulating the disc. Let me see if I can pick a couple of these up. And I'll just hold them in my hand to try and show you what it looks like. One more right there. Okay. So when you put this in, that tip sits in there, and you're turning these. Like that. I'm hoping you guys can see this. And then you get between the discs and you don't turn anything. So there's the disc, and then you get between it and nothing turns, and you work your way out to the next one. If you can. Mind you, I'm doing this in my hand. And then you're turning it. So what you're doing is you're turning till all those gates line up and you get an open. So we are going to try and get a pick on this on camera. Oh, I just realized we're at 28 minutes. So I'm going to stop this, and I will upload another video right after it and showing picking this. So this first video will be talking about the tools, operation, how the lock works, and then the next video we will work on picking this and get an open on it, hopefully. So yeah, come back for the next one. We'll get this opened up, hopefully. Until then, keep it legal.